evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Chloe Feng. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. John Lee slams Western countries which criticized Hong Kong's reward offer for the arrest of national security suspects. Japan gets approval from the United Nations nuclear watchdog to release Fukushima wastewater into the sea. And the United Nations says 3 children are among 10 Palestinians killed as an Israeli land and air attack leaves much of Jenin in ruins. Chief Executive John Lee has denounced Western governments which criticized Hong Kong for offering rewards for the arrest of national security suspects. Veteran lawyer Ronnie Tong, meanwhile, noted that political offenders cannot be extradited back to the city. Missy Mock reports.
Shortly after Hong Kong police announced $1 million rewards for the arrest of 8 national security suspects who have fled the city, the United States called for the bounty to be withdrawn. The British and Australian foreign ministers took to Twitter to express their displeasure. But Chief Executive John Lee insisted that he will not be swayed by overseas criticism.
I know that they have been doing things for their own political reasons. I am not in any way troubled by any attempt to sabotage our action, because I have strong faith that the Hong Kong police will be able to do what they can. I'm not afraid of any political pressure that is put on us, because we do what we believe is right.
The Foreign Ministry office in Hong Kong threw its weight behind Lee. It accused the United States and Britain of smearing Hong Kong police and noted that their own national security laws are severe. One of the 8 wanted persons is former lawmaker Nathan Law, who obtained refugee status in Britain. He wrote on Facebook that he will not surrender and will carefully choose places to visit. Hong Kong has agreements to surrender fugitive offenders with 10 countries, including Malaysia, Singapore, and Portugal. But deals with 9 other countries have been suspended. These include Australia, Britain, and the United States, where the 8 suspects reside. Senior counsel Ronnie Tong said under United Nations guidelines and Hong Kong's own laws, political offenders cannot be extradited even if they are inside Chinese embassies. A Hong Kong police spokesman said the force will take all necessary measures to stop fugitive suspects from taking part in activities that endanger national security. Missy Mock, HKIBC.
Applications to join the police force have surged since entry requirements were relaxed in May. Security Secretary Chris Tang attributed the jump to the lifting of the height and weight criteria. The number of people wanting to become constables is 4 times more than in May last year, while applications for inspector doubled. The city's 6 disciplined services have a manpower shortage of 12%, compared with a 20% shortfall for the city overall. Hong Kongers looking for a career in the aviation sector flocked to the airport today, where 3,000 positions are on offer at a one-day jobs fair. More than 30 aviation and catering firms, as well as hotels, set up booths at the International Airport Community Building to recruit staff. Secondary students also turn up for career tips, including how to prepare for interviews and apply makeup. Chief Operating Officer Vivian Chen said there is a desperate need for frontline staff. She said the airport authority will give priority to locals before considering whether to import workers. Many of the visitors were enthusiastic.
It's actually my dream job in the aviation industry, especially for flight attendant, because I just like to meet people, and I would like to know more different cultures of the different peoples. That's why I like this aviation service.
The United Nations nuclear watchdog has given Japan the green light to release wastewater from the damaged Fukushima plant into the sea.
I can say that after this effort that has been carried out by the task force that I put together, and with the assistance and advice of prestigious experts on radio protection from all over the world, including from neighboring countries, that the plan as it has been proposed and devised is in conformity with the agreed international standards.
The International Atomic Energy Agency says releasing the water will not have a huge radiological impact on people and the environment. But China and South Korea strongly disagree. A start date has not been set because Tokyo still needs the approval of its national regulator. It will take up to 40 years to get rid of the 1 million tons of treated radioactive water. The Fukushima nuclear plant was destroyed by a tsunami that killed almost 20,000 people 12 years ago. The United Nations says 3 children were among 10 Palestinians killed in Israel's biggest military raid on the occupied West Bank town of Jenin in 20 years. Thousands of Palestinians fled in panic as Israeli land and air attacks left much of the city in ruins and without much water or electricity, HKIBC reports.
For a second straight day, the Palestinian city of Jenin was rocked by the sound of gunfire and explosions. Residents tried to stay safe as hundreds of Israeli troops, backed by airstrikes, continued a search for arms, ammunition, and explosives. Israeli army footage shows soldiers storming their way into an apartment on a random search. The Palestinians tried to resist by pelting army convoys with bricks. In some part of the city, Palestinians fought pitched gun battles with the soldiers. Ambulances were kept busy, but many were rammed by Israeli armored cars, according to Médecins Sans Frontières, which said medics were prevented from working. The Medical Relief Agency added that military bulldozers destroyed roads, preventing ambulances from operating. Bulldozers also cut off electricity and water supplies. Fires raged in many parts of Jenin with homes and businesses destroyed. At least 3,000 Palestinians fled the city, and journalists have accused Israeli soldiers of opening fire on them. Palestinian Prime Minister Mohammed Shtayyeh called for an immediate halt to the aggression and demanded sanctions against Israel. With 120 Palestinians arrested, Israel has hinted that it is winding down its operation after achieving its objectives. Sachin Katwi, HKIBC.
A car has rammed into a group of pedestrians in the Israeli city of Tel Aviv, injuring 8 people. Police said the driver was a Palestinian who then got out of the car and began stabbing others, injuring at least 1 person. A passerby shot and killed the attacker. Hamas, which rules the Gaza Strip, said the assault was in response to the deadly Israeli raid on Jenin. Hundreds of people have gathered in a Paris suburb in a show of solidarity for their mayor, whose family was attacked whilst asleep last weekend. The week-long riots triggered by the police killing of an Arab teenager seem to be largely over, with only dozens detained overnight. Remayan reports.
Vazon Jean was joined by fellow officials and residents as they sang the national anthem outside the town hall of La Ile-le-Rose. It was a powerful display of solidarity for the mayor after an appalling attack at his home last weekend left his wife and 2 children running for their lives.
Merci.
Jean thanks those who joined the march. The longtime mayor of the usually quiet commune added the past week of violence against public officers and facilities must end. Locals echoed his sentiment. I've had it up to here. The chaos needs to stop, said this woman. Jean was among 220 or so mayors who met President Emmanuel Macron today to talk about security and rebuilding. Macron also pledged his support for police on social media. He angered the union last week after describing the fatal shooting of teenager Nayo Mursuk by a traffic officer as inexcusable. But there's a bigger headache: the economic carnage. Tourism revenue will likely plunge in the short term after hotels reported a spate of cancelled bookings. Commuters are also bracing for disruptions as public transport suffered extensive damage. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
The top organization for international airlines says Hong Kong's passenger traffic may recover earlier than expected. This comes after the government announced plans to import 6,000 aviation workers to give the sector a boost. Macy Mock reports.
The International Air Transport Association, or IATA, which represents around 300 airlines, expects passenger traffic in Hong Kong to return to pre-COVID levels by the end of next year. That is 3 years earlier than predicted by its Director General Willie Walsh last month. He said the more optimistic outlook follows China's earlier than expected reopening. IATA praised the Hong Kong government for its move last month to bring in 6,300 aviation workers through a labor importation scheme. The scheme, which is expected to attract mostly mainlanders, is set to launch this month. Fred Lam, chief executive of the Airport Authority, said there were more than 220,000 arrivals per day and around 75 million a year before COVID battered the city. He expects the number of visitors to reach 80% of the pre-COVID level by the end of this year. It is currently at 50%. Aviation data collector Cirium projects Hong Kong as topping the charts in the airline growth market. Its projections show that from July to September, airlines have reserved over 6 million seats for Hong Kong. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
And now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index closed up 109 points. Top 10 active stocks, tracker found up 12 cents, Tencent up $1.20, and CCB down 3 cents. Alibaba up 45 cents, Meituan up $1.20, ICBC down 5 cents. Forex trading against Hong Kong dollar, the euro is at 8.53, British pound at 9.97, and Australian dollar at 5.24. Moving on to the UK market, the London FTSE is currently down 6 points. And onto the weather now. Sunny periods and a few showers on a hot day tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 27 and 32 degrees, rising to 34 on Friday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. And that is our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Chloe Feng. Thanks for watching. Good night.